Awesome. So welcome again to the Global Career Series organized by Beyond Borders Network. I'm going to tell you about Beyond Borders in a bit. But the faces that you see here, we call this our Hall of Fame, okay? These are real people. I'm very big on representation of Black people, especially in the workforce, corporate America, and all of that, different sectors, right? So it's very important that we actually see people that look like us because it gives us that extra boost and confidence that, hey, if Temi can do it, if Ledo can do it, if Liza and Chibueze can do it, I can also do it, right? So these are real people, real faces that have broken barriers and said, you know what, I deserve more. I am more than my current situation. I am more than my current country, right? And I can break free from, whatever limitations that society has set for us. And the Global Career Series really is one of the pathways that we use to achieve this. So today we are going to basically start with introductions. I already put in the chat. Please let us know your name, where you're tuning in from, and also drop your LinkedIn profiles so that we can also connect. I also encourage the speakers to do the same so people can connect with you. Then we're going to go into introducing the speakers, and then we'll open it up for, start the actual panel session, and finally open it up for Q&A, then close. All right. So about us, this is brought to you again by Beyond Borders Network. We call ourselves the connector, and we achieve this in two major ways. The first one is to really provide a global platform that connects Black and diaspora African professionals with the resources and the networks that they need to advance and thrive. The second part, which is something we are still building out, is still a platform that serves as a bridge for global companies to be able to hire talent from, that is not on, from the African continent. So whether you're on the continent or you're abroad, and again, all this leads to really building a sustainable talent pipeline and ensuring that as much as possible, there's representation wherever we are, in different industries. In school, I went to school at NYU, and at some point, I was just tired of being the only Black girl in some of my classes, going for events, being the only Black girl. I'm like, hey, looking around, like, where are my people? Do you understand? But it really makes a lot of difference when you have the right support system and community to help you on your journey. So again, the Global Career Series really is that platform, a virtual series of events designed to equip individuals with the knowledge, the skills, and resources that they need to, advance and thrive in the global job market. We've been hearing a lot of stories about layoffs and all of that, which is really sad. But in the midst of all of this, I believe one important component is really the aspect of resilience, right? Being resilient, regardless of what the economy is saying, which is not always easy. But we are really providing this, we created the series to just serve as that springboard for those looking for jobs and those looking to advance. So why global career? And global career doesn't mean you have to, in Nigerian words, japa, leave your country. We have a good number of people. I personally know a good number of people that we've worked with, even like while I was running some projects in Nigeria, that are now, working with companies, whether it's in California, New York, the UK, but they're like, Liza, I don't feel like leaving. I just want to make all the dollars and be in my country, okay? And that works for them. But that has also opened them up to several opportunities. Why global career? Because it will give you an opportunity to advance your skills. So beyond what you currently have, there is that opportunity to also tap into, global resources that you may not have had before. It also shifts your perspective, your way of thinking to, for example, if you're in global health, public health, right? If you're thinking of even going global with that, you need to have that global perspective and experience. Really makes a lot of difference. Maybe Dr. Temi can tell us more about that today. That it also helps you position globally expand your network, and even helps you to build confidence. And let's not forget the money part. Hello, are we joking here? There's that part of, increasing your finances, helping you to earn more. And I always see it as a multiplier effect, right? You're able to earn more, you're able to help your family, you're able to support the causes that you really care about, and, just live easier. So throughout this particular session, I'd really say come with an open mind, right? Don't say things like, is it not resume? I know it now. This is the kind of mindset that really limits a lot of people, where they're like, it's not interview, I beg. But you still haven't tapped into, broken through to get that global career opportunity that you really desire. So I would always say, come with an open mind, right, and a desire to learn. Take notes of the knowledge that will be shared with us today. Respect other community members, so don't just unmute. We've had people just unmute and, they're just talking. Sometimes you hear in the background, yaba, yaba, yaba. Like, why are you doing that? Oh my goodness, but yeah, please respect others. Remain muted unless you're called to ask questions. Then also, this is an opportunity to network. I'm very, very big on networking, community building, and all of that. And we are also going to give you an opportunity to ask your questions. And now, this is the point before we even get started, where we ask a couple of questions. I mean, this will not even take so much time, but if you could, please answer the poll questions on your screen. We are just going to give you a couple of minutes to do that while we see our faces. So please participate in the poll. I'm also going to share the results so that we can, oops, sorry. I'm going to share the results in a bit. So let's see. All right, we have some answers coming through. So what is your biggest challenge with getting jobs? Let's hear it. Is the LinkedIn part, interviewing, even salary negotiation? I probably should have even put that on. But please let us know what has been the biggest issue with getting jobs for you. Let us know. Let us know. Okay, so I'm going to share the poll in a bit, just end it at this point. And let's see. Okay. All right, so with the first question we had, it says, what is your biggest challenge with getting jobs? At 57%, let's talk data, okay? At 57%, that is the highest category. We have interviewing, and I think I can definitely relate to this. This is something that I've also heard people talk about. Oh, I have done 5 rounds of interview. That's even the most annoying part. Start doing 5 rounds. Just give me the job, please. Okay? Let's conclude this thing. Give me the job. But yeah, I hear you on that. And then followed by that is creating a resume that works, which also makes sense because I've also been at NYU I mean, it's a global community and all of that, but you still see people's resumes. Let's say, oh, someone from Kenya or somewhere, they're like, you see a resume of 4 pages. I'm like, please, what are you trying to prove here? It's actually a lot, right? And it's very important that we create those resumes that employers can see and say, okay, you know, this is actually good, and this works for us. So I'm going to end this in a bit, and hopefully during this session we can dig deeper into interviewing skills. Then the other question, so what other sessions or trainings will be relevant? I mean, this is in-house, but for the most part, people are still talking about interview. I see a lot of interview. Then, you know, the storytelling part, how to stand out amongst other candidates. So I'm sharing all of this so that as you know, as we ask the speakers questions, we can also touch on that. Also, someone also said platforms that help connect job seekers to the companies looking to hire. Makes sense. How do I follow up after an interview or after being ghosted? That's also another thing to tackle. All right. So I've said a lot, and I'm just going to pause here. This is the point where we hear from our wonderful, wonderful speakers. Thank you so much, Temi. Thank you, Chibueze. Do you prefer to be called Chibu? Anyone? I think you're muted. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, Chibu is for non-Nigerians. If you're Nigerian, saying Chibueze shouldn't be a problem. So
yeah, I'll say with my Chibu accent, Chibueze. And then Ledo, thank you so much for making our time. I think at this point, I'll just allow you all to introduce yourselves. Let's start with Temi.
All right. Okay. Hi. Hi, Beyond Borders community. Yes. Or should I say Beyond Borders village? So I'm really happy, grateful to be here. My name is, well, you can call me Timmy Tokwe Ojo. Um, when people ask me what do I say about myself these days, I know this is supposed to be like a professional platform, but in the spirit of storytelling is to tell you who I am and what motivates me, right, day to day. So I'm Tammy. I believe that I'm an encourager. I'm someone who is invested in seeing people thrive. And so for me, the ways I've been able to do that is through health and wellness. And when we talk about health and wellness, not just for the physical, but holistically, you're socially well, you're mentally well, you're physically well, spiritually well. All of those things are, I would call that, that's my package, that's my North Star. So when you ask me who is Tammy, is to ask what are the things that um, push me, or what are the things that I dream of and where would want to be. So I continue to find ways in my day to day, in the work that I do, to live out this aspirational part of myself. I'm pretty sure they shared our bios, so I want to say you can see it in my bios as okay, this is what she does, but that this is who I am and this is who I'm working to be all the time. So I hope that serves the purpose of talk about yourself.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. T. Dr. Thames. Awesome. Let's hear from you, Ledo. Tell us, about your background. I know you're currently a product manager, and congratulations on your promotion. So yeah, let's hear from you.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Beyond Borders Network. And hi, everyone. So glad to be here. Yes, my name is Ledo. Where did I even start from? Okay, so I graduated about 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago from Drexel University. And there I studied computing and security technology. Didn't know I wanted to even be in tech, honestly. I kind of stumbled into it. And yeah, all through school, I think I've been really passionate about navigating my path. I think when you're an international student, there's lots of information you don't know. And that's why I'm so big. And I was actually having a conversation with a friend yesterday. I'm so big on like passing information across to people because yeah, it's really it can be hard out here. I think now there's a plethora of information. Now people know more about what to do starting in college. But when I started school in 2017, I really had to figure things out a lot. And opportunities like these are ones I would never miss if I'm able to. I'm so glad to be here. So working as a product manager now for a year and some months. Really love the impact I'm able to make. But yeah, I'm also really passionate about diversity and inclusion and helping students just own their careers and be able to create the impact that they want to make. So thank you again for having me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for, sharing your story with us. All right, Chibueze, let's hear from you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, first of all, and thank you to everyone who has made the time to be with us this evening. I mean, there's a ton of information on the internet, but I think learning is, it's a continuous journey, and just that you guys have made time to actually be here, despite a plethora of options out there. I think that speaks to, I guess, how much you value yourself and how much you want to grow in your career. So that being said, my background is in banking mostly. I spent almost a decade in banking in Nigeria. I did Diamond, I did Access, and I went to Oxford to do an MBA. And during my MBA year was when I decided that I wanted to move into tech full time. So post MBA, I've spent some time at American Express. I've spent some time at Expedia Group. But the one thing that has connected my career in banking and in the tech sector is that I was in product marketing. And, for those of you who don't know what product marketing is really just being the voice of the customer and kind of like translating all the insights from what the customer wants and using that to inform what is built on the product. As for my motivation for being here, I mean, I've always, really been excited about helping people figure out their career journey. And, I guess to a large extent, I think I've been successful in mine. So I think I always like to pay it forward because I've also received a lot of help from other people in, in growing in my career. So that's really, my motivation for being here. And I'm really excited. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Chibueze. Thank you, everyone. All right, so let's get right into it. And throughout this session, if you have questions, please write them down or just put them in the chat. If you'd like to actually speak, which I always encourage, please also get ready to do that as well. So the first question I would ask, since we are all internationals, how have you been able to stand out? Let's just use the words of, the person that shared that. Stand out while looking for a job. How have you been able to tell your unique story? What strategies have you deployed to ensure that you actually get the job? So let's start with Ledo.
Okay, that's a good question. So yeah, I think when I started college, I didn't really see the fact that I was an international student as an advantage. In fact, there are many times when I always saw it as a big disadvantage. And so I always saw myself from that perspective. Until I had conversations with like friends and some mentors, and they really helped me to see that because you're so different from many of your peers. Again, I think you mentioned, I said that sometimes you were the only female in your classrooms. And for me, I started to see that more as unique, like it made me stand out, right? So it meant that when I was taking certain classes, all my professors were forced to know me, right? Like I would get in front of you, obviously not in a forceful way, but I was very intentional about making myself seen and heard. And it didn't come easy to me, obviously, because I tend to be more of a reserved person. So it really, it was really a journey. But I think for me, your mindset is everything. And I think that's like the first thing I would say that helped me is just seeing that I am, yes, an international student. Yes, there are, visa restrictions and things I can and cannot do. But for the things that I'm able to do, I'm going to try to leverage that. So I think that mindset really helped me, even with my application. So one thing that I really was able to tap into, by the grace of God, is to get lots of tech diversity scholarships. I got several scholarships from Google, Microsoft, VMware, Palantir, Adobe, and one other company I'm forgetting. And when I crafted like my unique stories, it was always because genuinely it was from my background. Like there was, I mean, obviously everyone's story is so different, but the fact that I was able to talk about my journey as an international student and, just tap into like my own personal journey, I really saw that it got to a point where I didn't even have to think too much about my applications because my journey was just my story, right? So it really came from me seeing myself disadvantaged to actually now using that to, leverage applications, people, when I was reaching out to people online, and with looking for scholarships and things like that. So I think for me, a big thing for me was my mindset and just, seeing that it was an asset to be an international student and not just, some disadvantaged, kid that
I
didn't
love
happen
that
to
so much.
me.
Yeah, I think that's actually very relevant. Very important. The mindset, once you're able to get it right. I mean, some people can hear this and be like, okay, mindset. We hear all the motivational stuff, but it's actually true. Changing your perspective, because even for me, right? One of my goals was to get job offers before I finished with my master's, and by the grace of God, I was able to get 4. Right, even though some of them went south, story for another day, but I finally decided on the current job I'm in right now. And I saw that because I've been able to master my story, right? I saw that every single time I talked about what I had done as Slum to School, how we worked on pilot programs with Facebook and Google when they first launched in Nigeria, all of those things, you see their face actually get lit up, yeah? Because even with Slum to School, for instance, for those of you that don't know Slum to School, they basically provide quality education for kids in the slums of Lagos. We have entered the slums of Makoko. Do you understand? A lot of my colleagues have not done stuff like that. So we've done the heavy lifting. And once you're able to understand that my own story is valid, your story is valid, you then be able to package, see everything in the abroad is all about packaging. You'll be able to package it very well. You're not telling lies, but you're actually telling your story in a more effective way that they can connect with. So yeah, that part is definitely valid. So let's hear from you, Chibueze.
Yeah. So I would answer the question from the perspective of something that recently happened. So a recruiter reached out to me about a role, and I was just kind of curious, like, okay, so why did you reach out to me about this role? Because again, it's flattering when a recruiter gets to you and like, hey, I would like to interview you for this job. So she said something that she thought, first of all, that my experience aligned with the role. Secondly, and which was interesting for me, was she said my profile on LinkedIn and my activity on LinkedIn. And I was like, okay, I mean, I know these things are important, but like sometimes you cannot doubt, the impact it can have on your career, right? By just being active, sharing your insights or experiences. I mean, anything can resonate with anybody. I took I would say like a 6-month break from LinkedIn, and I came back and I kind of like did like a life update, spoke about all the things that I was dealing with in my personal life, nothing career related. And that just resonated with so many people because it felt like, oh, like, look, this guy is doing something in his personal life that is not just job related, because everybody just keeps saying about their successes in their job. But I came from the perspective of the successes in my personal life, and that was running, hitting my best score for my 5K 5K runs that I typically do. I went hiking and I've hiked over 50 kilometers this year. So things that just kind of show that, like, beyond my job, beyond who I am as a professional, I actually have a life, and it's a rich life. I spoke about my daughter walking for the first time when she turned 1 on her birthday. And for me, these are huge milestones about what makes me a happy person. And of course, if I'm happy in my life, I can definitely bring that to my job. So I guess, some of these things, just sharing your story and really letting people get to know you as a person beyond just you being a professional. I think that's one way you can definitely stand out in any, in any part of your life. So yeah, I guess that's my experience. Yeah.
I love it so much. Yeah, we tend to, like sometimes when you go on LinkedIn, you be like, I just received XYZ Diana Award, and I'm like, God, am I a tree? What's going on? But bringing that human perspective, and I think that's also, when we talk about interviews, that's also something that has helped me in my interviews, because as much as possible, you need to get allies, man, from the beginning. Ask them about themselves, right? And then ease out the environment. Then you tell them who you are. But anyways, we'll get to that soon. Dr. Temi.
All right, so I want to say letter and triple is there is a consistency in what you've said, and which is the stories you tell, right? Storytelling is a huge part of what I would say, even unknowingly to me, is what I would say has kept me connected and has moved me forward. So I would give an example of when I was transitioning from BCG, Boston Consulting Group. So I was in conversations with, I'll call him a chief business officer, right? Over at like a hospital network in Florida. And so our conversation was, I mean, he was talking to me because we're trying to start like a new business unit and everything. And so he was trying to find almost like in-house consulting. And so of course, I know they're out there poaching. So that was what the conversation was about. But there was something, and the reason why I said unknowingly to me, how stories actually keep you connected and will move you forward, is by telling him about my international student journey, like when I came to the US by myself for the first time, like what, 2006, and like no family, all of that. Just like sharing that journey with him. And then he was like, you're the kind of people we want. And the reason being that it's like just that journey itself shows my entrepreneurial drive. I don't consider myself an entrepreneur. I'm not like, oh, I'm going to start this business or whatever. But your life is almost like, but he told me something I didn't even like see for myself. He told me the reason why he's going to keep talking to me was because of that journey, that international student journey, that global perspective. So in fact, he in my opinion, when the conversation I was having with him and what he wanted to create, I was thinking, I was like, are you sure I should be the person doing this? But he was of the opinion like it does not matter because you have you have the drive, you have the entrepreneurial drive, you have the potential to make it work, even if maybe your experience might not seem enough, right? And so it's to say that tell stories that connect you to people, and also listen to them, like ask, like Liza said, ask them about themselves, because I also then learned that he himself is like an immigrant like myself. He emigrated from France, or rather immigrated from France, or what's the word? Migrated from France to the United States, right? And so he resonated with me because of that journey, right? And he was able to see something that I even for myself unknowingly was saying, but didn't even capture it in those terms. And I would say, using that example, even though I ended up not taking up that offer, in fact, I like left it for what I have right now. But what I also have right now came out of storytelling. Someone telling my story in a room where I wasn't, and then being reached out to. And then I dreamt up my role with this person, but it had to do with this storytelling, talking about your unique experience. So, like let us say, being an international student is not a disadvantage, can never be. Like it's up to you to determine what it is. Don't let others tell you what your own story is. So you say your own story, call it to be, and damn the consequences is the way I put it, right? So yeah, that's what I'll say. That's one way to stand out. Tell that story and make sure it connects with others, and then listen to other stories. People really do remember how you make them feel than how you like what what the statistics is. And so to what I said in the beginning, I want to be like I'm an encourager. And so that's something natural that I lean into that has kept me connected, and does make my like conversations and stuff like stand out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so, so good. Very solid, Tammy. Thank you for sharing. And I love that you said being an international student or an international at all cannot be a disadvantage, all right? And I hope that if there's one thing you live with today, like being the first session that we actually had, one of our speakers, Amarachi, she's currently based in, well, she's Nigerian. She was living in Nigeria, got a job, moved to Cameroon, a job based in California. Now she works for a company in New York. When she was telling me, I remember the first time I'm like, you'd have negotiated higher. Then the second job, she's like, Liza, this is how much I said, and then now she's moving to a whole new job. And, obviously now she has gained the capacity, the skills on how to negotiate by confidently by herself, which is great. She has told her Nigerian story because that's what's unique to her, and it's very valid, right? I wrote a post on LinkedIn where I was like, sometimes when people meet you here, they're like, oh, I hear an accent. Where are you from? In my head, me, I hear an accent from you too. Where are you from? Because if you think about it, if you go to, let's say, a place like Boston, the thick Boston accent is very evident. Then if you now switch to Houston, right, you'd be like, oh, okay, this is different from what I heard. So every single person has an accent. We are all unique, based on our diverse experiences and environment. So definitely leverage that as much as you can. All right, so the next question I have is for Chibueze. You are a product marketer and you've worked across, different fields. What advice would you give to someone that is looking to break into product marketing? Interestingly, I actually took a certification with the same organization that you talked about, Product Marketing Alliance. Was it the same?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think during the pandemic, because I have a marketing background too.
Okay.
I'm thinking of, pivoting to that product marketing, even though now I've decided product management. I want to pivot to that instead. But anyways, so for anyone looking to pivot to product management or advance in product management, what key skills or transferable skills would you advise they get? What has really helped you to position yourself right? Yeah, let's hear your story.
Okay. So first of all, I started out in products, well, in sales. Then I did customer service. Then I got into product management. And during my time in product management, I started to kind of voluntarily take on product marketing responsibilities. So I think that's kind of like how my journey started, right? But the one thing that really connects product marketing to all those roles is having that connection to the customer and really understanding what the customer wants and translating that understanding of what the customer wants into a product or into a feature of a product. So that's kind of like what it means to be a product marketing manager, first of all. With regards to transitioning into product marketing, if you are in a sales role, if you are in a customer success role, if you are in a product management role, all these roles are aligned to product marketing because they all share the same objectives, they all share the same goal, which is to create a product and sell the product and keep selling the product. So if you're in any of these adjoining or adjacent roles in your business, you have a way to get into product marketing. And I think if you are in a company that has a product marketing function, I would strongly advise that you seek to, transfer into those type of roles. You can start by asking them, if they have any free work, any work that nobody wants to do, and offering to do it. Volunteering is one way to definitely get, real world experience, because if you're going to apply for a role outside of your company, then they would require you to have that real world experience. So I think it's very crucial that you take advantage of where you are now. If that is what your interest is, find, a team, a product marketing team in your company, and try and get involved with them. If you do that over time and they see your value, they will definitely, if there's an opening, they'll definitely give it to you. The other way to do it is to do it through an MBA. I mean, it's a very expensive path. it's a very expensive path to take, especially if you're going to a school like Oxford. But it definitely opens you up to a lot of global companies like Google, like the Apple, like the Amazon, because they do hire a lot from these type of schools, and they have graduate programs or graduates entry roles for product marketing managers if you are an MBA. So, and because they understand that maybe you're transitioning, those roles are kind of like foundational to shape you into a product marketing manager before you're given responsibility. So you most likely start with an internship in the company that would now translate into a full-time role. So I would say these are the two major ways to get into product marketing. But I think there's a third one, which is you can decide to do a certification like Liza did. But the thing with that is, if you're doing a certification, it's important that you complement that with real world experience. So that might mean taking an internship at a company and really trying to understand what the role is about by actually doing it. But yeah, I think these are the three main pathways to get into product marketing. Bear in mind, product marketing is really a role that is specific to the tech industry. So is mostly the tech industry that hires product marketing managers. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And you also talked about like how an MBA is, serves as leverage for you to break into even beyond product marketing, obviously several other roles. So since all of us here have had, some form of international degree, can we speak to that just in case someone here is considering? Now, we are not saying it's compulsory because we know how expensive these degrees are, but maybe speak from your experience to share how your degree in the US or in the UK has helped you thrive in your career, just briefly. Temi or Ledo. Let's start with Ledo.
Sure.
And also, you could actually say the specific degree and then the school.
Sure. Yeah, so I went to Drexel University in Philadelphia, and my major was, or my degree was in computing and security technology, and I got a minor in human-computer interaction. So when I was looking for school, it wasn't my first choice school, but when I was considering another option, I was very big on going to a big school. When I say big, I mean just a school that was in a city, because I mentioned earlier that I'm a very reserved person. So I felt like if I had gone to a very small liberal arts college in some remote part of the US, not to say that I wouldn't have turned out the way I did, but I think I really felt like it would have shielded me from a lot of opportunities and just forcing me to step out of my comfort zone. So that was one thing I was very keen on. My other choice was George Washington. That was in DC. But yes, I was very big on trying to go to a school in a big city. I didn't know much about internships or the tech industry, like I mentioned, because when I actually came to the US, I thought I was going to be a doctor. And yeah, that didn't work out for me. But so again, I didn't know about the importance of like going for like maybe an HBCU or like an Ivy League school, which I think many people try to target, which is amazing. But for me, what I did was I leveraged where I was, right? So like I mentioned, my school was, pretty large. My school also enforced co-ops. So co-ops are pretty much like internships, but they're 6 months, right? So from my first year, even before my first year ended, I was forced to start looking for roles. So that really helped me just to know that I was required to get real world experience. My program was 5 years and I was required to do 3 co-ops, and each of those co-ops were 6 months. So I did 3 co-ops and an additional internship. So I did about, I want to say 21 months of real world experience in my 5 years in school, right? So that was one thing I would definitely encourage, is that if you are looking for try to target schools that would require you to do an internship. I know some schools it's compulsory, some schools it's just more optional. But that was one way my degree really helped me. I think also just the network and like the community of people around you. I started this community called Students of LinkedIn back in 2018. Yes, I was one of the 3 co-founders. I think Liza, you might know Blessing Adogami, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we're the team that kind of founded that initiative, and that was just to really help us like connect with more students in, like help students really use LinkedIn, because back then LinkedIn was not a platform that students liked at all, because it felt very intimidating. You would see like very high, like very, very like professional people, and then you would just feel like, oh, I'm a student, I have nothing to offer, I've not even done any internship, I have no work experience, and students were shielding away from that platform. So just even being in a school like that, where my school was very big on like championing career service kind of, opportunities and helping students really get connected, just kind of put me in that community to be a part of that cause. It wasn't a school specific cause. It was something that just because I was happening to attend Drexel, and that was also where Blessing was, who was the founder, really helped me. So all in all, I think my degree really helped me to like forced me to get internships, which have been super helpful for me in my career, to the point that, like Liza was saying, when I was graduating as well, I didn't want to graduate without having offers in hand, right? Like it was very, very big. So because I had done a lot of the heavy lifting my first, second, third, fourth year, my fifth year was just a breeze. So I definitely would encourage students, if you're looking for schools, really ensure that your school prioritizes career development, because a school can have a very solid academic background, which is great, but grades are not everything, right? It's like, I know people who have gotten the 4.0s and they're still job searching. So you have to find that balance where obviously get good grades, but also ensure that your school is putting resources into helping connecting students with opportunities, whether it's having connections with big companies, or at least they provide services that are very rich and can help you, navigate the job search. So yeah, that's what I would say.
So good. Thank you so much, Ledo. I heard a lot. I mean, what your program was 5 years?
Yeah, my program was 5 years, but it was because of the co-ops. Yeah. So
Yeah, makes sense. It reminds me of Northeastern. I don't know if they're 5 years, but they're very big on co-op.
yes, Northeastern does that as
Yeah,
well.
they do that, the co-op. Actually, it's through Northeastern I heard about co-op, sort of
Oh, okay.
like that term. Yeah,
Yeah.
co-op. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing. And there are some comments in the chat for you, Ledo, about positioning on LinkedIn. We'll get to that because you're a LinkedIn celeb, okay? Okay, Tammy, let's hear from you. You did your PhD on an undergrad here too. So how has that experience helped you?
It definitely, so for me, so 3 degrees, right? Biochemistry, so that was my undergrad. And then for my master's, it was epidemiology. I focused chronic disease epi. Um, uh, and then the PhD was like a PhD in public health. And I just like lumped everything together, epi, social and behavioral sciences. And then I focused on implementation science. But one thing that's been consistent across my degrees is like taking on like what I call hard skills, or some will even say transferable skills. So like technical skills. So things around like learning different like software languages, right? Um, Proving that you can do research and carry it all through. So in a way, even if they won't call it project management, it kind of is, because there's an expectation. You start from concept and you deliver at the end, right? And one, I would say, I mean, I have older siblings. I have a younger one who did their degrees in Nigeria, for instance, and I remember, at least with their experience, I think it's pretty much when they get to their third year or so is when now they're expected to do like an internship, right? But that would be like the first time they get to do an internship. Mind you, the Nigeria that I was coming from, you don't hear that kids like us, like in that undergrad stage, are finding jobs or looking for internship or even volunteering because they want to learn office skills, whatever. Like it's not commonly spoken about. So it was the first time I came to the US as an undergraduate student. It was the first time I was like, wait, what? I can get a job? you know that was the first time I was like, wait, I can get a job and I'm not even like 21 yet. Wow, right? And so for me that was like an eye opener. So the mandate I then gave myself was like, you got to be working all the time, right? In between semesters. So whatever break, even the January, we call it a January term, I was working. I was looking for something to do. Summer, and I understand it can be a very tough time for international students finding like internships, paid internship, even unpaid, but it's so much more difficult when it's unpaid because you're international, all of that stuff. But like even finding those internships, right, can be difficult. But I made it a mandate. Like I cannot be having like the American work experience. Like there can't be a break in between my semesters, right? So I would say to an extent that is something that my degrees presented to me. Is like, wow, you actually have the opportunity to work, right? Either it's volunteer or paid in semester and outside of the semester, like when you're out of school, right? And so again, I even ended up working for like the career services department when I was in undergrad, because I was like, I need an express way to figure out how to do resumes, how to write cover letters, all that stuff. And also learning things because, of course, I didn't know everything, right? And then I would have people come in and talk about the opportunities they are considering. I was like, oh, I didn't know about that. So that was more wealth of knowledge. So for me, at least with the way American degrees are structured, they expose you early to wanting to gain experience. I started from biochemistry. What did that mean for me? It meant that I had to go talk to professors and be like, you know what? I don't have any lab experience, but I want to volunteer in your lab. And then they take you on because yeah, they like free labor, so they take you on, but then you start learning things, right? And that is things that matter, especially in fields you're interested in. My field, for instance, they want to see that you've done research. So even though I was like an undergrad, by the time I was done with my first year, it was the extra lab stuff that I did. That was what I was able to write into like the first summer undergraduate research fellowship that I ended up doing at Yale for like 2 years, right? So because I had that experience in my first year within the semester, I transitioned that into an opportunity after the semester. And then I just went back the following year, talked to the same principal investigator of that lab, and it's like, I like the work I did here last year. Can I come back again? It was like, yeah, come back again, but we won't be able to pay you. Then I just went back to my school and asked them to give me money for my summer, right? And then they were like, oh yeah, there is like a grant. It was like a three back then, $3,000 was good money for like a 19-year-old or whatever. So I was like, yeah, I'll take it. So I just went. It was like this back and forth of, we'll give you some money here. The other lab said, well, we'll pay for your accommodation, and that was how I put a second summer package together, right? But I wouldn't know all of this if I was relying on like how, if I was still thinking of how like the Nigerian university system, right, would have operated. I might have been thinking, well, I kind of have to wait a couple years. But the point is, for me coming here, I'm very much early knowing like, well, you kind of have to be doing something, building up context specific experience, right, from the get go. And one thing I'll tell you, because some people, like I said in the beginning, I know it is difficult to sometimes it tends to be difficult as international students to find internships that you are eligible for because they might bring in the US citizen thing or the permanent resident citizens thing. But like what I want to tell you is like, whatever you're doing, even your degree, count it as an experience, is what I tell people. because you're going to do lab afterwards. They're going to go tell you, write this paper. They're going to tell you, spend some time doing group work or do journal club. All of those things are relevant experiences. Just because it's not designed to look like a job doesn't mean it's not a job or it's not an experience. So when I'm calculating all these things, I'm calculating 4 years of college, calculating 2 years of my master's, I'm calculating 5 years of my PhD, minus all the in between years. That's what, 4, 5, that's 9. 9 and 2, that's 11, standard. All of that accounts as experience. So it's the way you, again, package it. Packaging, we're big on that. America loves packaging. So you cannot shut up about yourself if you want to thrive. At least in the American space, you've got to talk about what you do. Just find the way that yours is going to stand out. And people are like, wow, this person has really done enough. And a lot of this is like, get to think about what you've done, quantify it, right? And then just just be putting in the numbers. Those are the ways like your experience get to stick with people. When you give them something to focus on and you repeat it, it's like 70% of the hard work is done.
Mm. Gosh, so good. I know, right? She needs all the what? What? When you are breaking down how long you had spent in school, and I love the fact that you are able to say, hey, all of this is experience. And mind you, one important thing that Temi said, throughout her journey in school as a student is she didn't just sit down and say, I'm going to school, the only academics. She was very resourceful, right? She applied wisdom and ensured that every phase she was doing something, right? So that is very, very important. Chibueze, let's hear from you. Let's get the UK experience in it.
So I think first of all, tell me, like you, I actually have 3 degrees as well. I actually have a master's degree in architecture before I went to do an MBA. And I'm still thinking about a PhD at some point, but hey, that's my retirement plan. So I might eventually do that. But in terms of picking the right school, I think that your choice of school should align with your overall goal, your overall career goal. And what that means is, what type of job do you want to have? What type of career do you want to build? That should inform what school that you go to. So let's say you're trying to get into BCG. This is just as an example. What schools hire? What schools does BCG go to hire? That's the school that you should go to, because there's a clear pipeline, right? From that school to BCG, there's a relationship, and then you can capitalize on it through the alumni, through the careers office. That was basically how I made my decision to go to Oxford. I just kept thinking, okay, like what kind of companies come to hire from the school? Google comes here, Amazon comes here. Okay, fine. American Express comes here. Those are the type of companies that I want to work for. So that's the kind of school that I want to go to. Because at the end of the day, just like Ledo said, yeah, like you can have a first class and you're jobless. Like when you come to the postgraduate level, which is master's, PhD, it doesn't matter what your grades are. What matters is who you know. So which brings me to my second point, which is the alumni of the school should also drive your decision to go to that school. Some schools have very robust alumni spread across different industries. Some industries in particular, they have a high concentration of people who work in those industries. What that means is that those alumni are the ones that would give you your first phone call for that company. They're the ones that you can easily call to say, hey, I'm trying to work for this company. Can you tell me more about this company? They're the ones that will recommend you for the role if that is possible. So again, you need to be thinking strategically about why this school. First of all, does the company come to hire from there? Secondly, what does the alumni group look like? And do alumni from that school work at your choice company? Do you understand? And I think the third one, and I'm really glad that Ledo and Temi already talked about it, is the internship part of things. The way I got my Amex full-time offer was through an Amex internship. even though I didn't accept the full-time offer at the end of the day because I had gotten something better. But still, from that internship, I got a full-time job, and this was even before graduation. So, and that was always my goal from day one. So as soon as I resumed for my MBA, I just started applying. Luckily, I had kind of worked with Amex while I was at Diamond Bank, Access Bank in Nigeria. I was helping to launch Amex in West Africa. So I already had connections there. So once I landed, I was just like, hey guys, I'm in the country, what's up? So that conversation, I just passed through all the stages and just went straight to interview, and I got my internship. So while I was in school, I took some time off, about 4 months from my MBA, to go do the internship. And at the end of that process, I got my offer. So I think this is really how you want to approach it. There has to be a goal in mind. It shouldn't just be for the sake of, going to university. And I think this is where you can draw the distinction between Japa and people who are migrating. Because if you're migrating, you're more strategic in your thinking. You're thinking about how to build network, how to leverage it, how to grow your career, versus if it's a flight situation, you're worried about fuel prices, then your problem is different. But if you want to really leave the country, because for me, I kept telling myself before I left, like when I go to the UK, like I want to be on the same level that I am in Nigeria, because I was a high flyer in Nigeria. So I want to be a high flyer in the UK. And that was the reason why I went to Oxford in the first place. Because I mean, for me, who I am does not change, right? Even though you move me from one country to the other, I still know my value. And that's kind of like what informed my decision. So I think that is just a really good way to really approach these things. Thank you.
I'm sorry, but this was so good.
You understand? I just like, please let's pause and give you your flowers. I love that so much, because I mean, we hear the stories of people, which I'm not trying to look down on. People go as okay, you are a manager of a bank and you go to the UK and you start doing care job. Why? My question is always why? There's also the part where you start. Nothing wrong with that, because you have to send money to your family, hustle that hustle. But if you remain on that path for 10 years and it's not necessarily what you want to do, then there's a problem. There's also a mindset problem, which I love that Ledo would really address that, right? So the same, I'm balling in Nigeria, I have to be balling abroad. Hello, I am the price, I am the value. So don't look at me any less. And that's very, very important. Still brings me back to storytelling. For my interviews, one of the things I'll always tell them, because I lived in Nigeria, I went to school in Senegal, and then went to school in the US. So I like to talk about like that global perspective that I'm bringing to your organization. See, I'm hot. Do you understand? accept me like that. But this was just such a solid breakdown. So for anyone considering an advanced degree, they just shared some of the ways that you can do that, but not just come to school for the sake of it, but also leverage the resources. I saw one signboard one day in New Jersey. It says, America is too big to dream small. And that thing just hits me. I'm like, oh, wow. Well, yeah, this is also good. Let's now talk about interviewing skills. How do I ensure that, yes, my resume is good and all of that, but see, I want to go into these interviews in confidence, and even if I have like 5, at least, let something shall drop. So let's talk about interviewing skills, the strategies on that. If you can be like more articulate, if you can give specific steps that or advice that you would give to our audience. And then after that, we'll round it up with talking about LinkedIn, positioning yourself, personal branding, and our Madame Ledo will lead us on that part. So yeah, so let's talk about interviewing skills. Temi, do you want to kick us off?
All right, so just quickly, all right, so I think I can give two recommendations, right? Again, towards storytelling and research, right? So before you interview, I want to say 70% of your job is done if you've properly researched who you're interviewing with, You've properly, like, you've gone in, you understand the company profile, you look up the news, you see what's moving, new mergers, new acquisition, just like something interesting to show that. I mean, of course, it's interesting. Yes, you want a job, but also you got to show that you are keeping in, you're keeping in touch with what's happening in that space. So 70% of your job is done because of research, what you've learned about the company, where they were last year, what they're doing this year, any interesting moves they are making or others are making in that space. Then that's like 70% of your job. Now, part of that research means you've also gone to look at the profile of someone whose job you want in that company. So you kind of see what they expect of you, right? And then you've also looked at what, if leadership is saying anything on LinkedIn or whatever, you want to hear, like, get the general sense of how these people are thinking, what they care about, what they seem not to care about, right? And so, with that in mind, when you're now in that interview phase, there are two things here. One is how you tell your story, so structured storytelling, right? There was one that really helped me, like when I was doing the whole BCG, like trying to get into BCG. Interesting journey that was in itself, right? But what they coach you to do is being able to tell your story in 1 minute, being able to tell your story in 3 minutes, and being able to tell it in 5 minutes. But you really want to practice the shorter times, right? And one structure they had shared with us, or one that I also found helpful, was the star structure. So, like, this understand the situation, so being able to give context, understanding the task, so being able to say, well, this is what I then needed to do. And then the A is like the actions you then took, right? And then the R are the results or the recommendations. So if you're able to use the star structure, you can tell a full story of how you started from understanding the context, understanding what needed to be done, how you then implemented, and then the results you have. And when you're doing that, you want to be using numbers. You want to be using percentages. You want to be saying how many people you worked with, how many people you carried along, and who is the end receiver and what their feelings were or what their satisfaction level were. So pretty much kind of something you also even want to do with your resume, because you have, well, you don't have a lot of space to do that, but you do a version of that in your resume. And then the storytelling comes during the interview, where you can show them your full cycle of thinking and execution. Then the other thing I would recommend is understanding three things that you are able to offer, right? Because they have to see you as a value add. Like, you can't be somebody they just want to drag along and feel like, oh, we're going to invest in this person. No, I mean, even investments, before people make investment, they see potential before they make investment. So you've got to come up showing that you got the potential or you have the value add. So what is unique about your experience? What is it that you're bringing to the table? Someone like me now, for instance, I think somebody has said, uh, you went for PhD, then you did consulting. Now you're doing associate director. I was like, that for me is a unique sell, because I'm telling them, yo, I'm marrying scientific thinking and research and deep work. I'm marrying that with like strategy, right? And then I'm saying that's the unique value, because again, to that example I gave you in the beginning about the hospital network, they were considering me for a business role, right? But I also have all this scientific knowledge. So for me, my value add was like, I understand how this head of departments are thinking. I understand that. I understand the science. And I've also done this strategy consulting space. So I can pick out what their motivations are and translate that in a way that they're going to get carried along, right? So again, first thing, you can use the star in order to show a full cycle of thinking and execution. And then you should go with the value add. What are three things you bring in to them? And then being able to align it with what are three priorities of that industry or of that company. Again, goes to the research I mentioned at the beginning. If you've done the research, you know three things they care about, and then you can align it with the three things that you're bringing into the table, the three value adds that you're bringing to that. So that would be my recommendation.
Amazing. So good. I said, Tammy is speaking like a consultant. Okay. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. They just notified us that we have 25 minutes left, probably less now. We're trying to keep to time. So Ledo, let's hear from you.
Okay, I have a couple of recommendations. I'll speed through them quickly. So my first one is, okay, so my first point I would say is, in addition to what Dr. Tammy said about using a framework in your interview, like when answering questions, I recommend the STAR as well, but I like to add another R to the end, and that's for reflection, right? Because no matter how well you achieve the result, even if it's that you were able to, I don't know, maximize impact, there's always things you can do better. So that reflection always makes you very introspective. It makes, you come across as someone that can take stock and is always looking for ways to improve, right? So I definitely recommend just adding that additional R. It might not be necessary. At the end, after you talk about your results, maybe talk about how if you were given the same opportunity again, this is what I would do differently, or this is what I would do better. Another thing I would say is, I like to use the job description, right, to kind of ask myself certain questions. So what I'll really do is I will like get a copy out like the job description and think of any question I can expect that relates to each point, right? So let's say a product management role is, be able to, maybe the job description would say, work with stakeholders and multiple engineering, design, or cross-functional teams. So I can already expect that, maybe a question I will be asked is, how have you done that in the past? Or have you done that at this role or this role, right? So I'm already like expecting, even though I might not be asked that question, it's still better to be prepared. So I like to do that for literally every bullet point, like what is the question that can be asked that relates to this bullet point? Again, even if you're not asked, it's better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. Still on the topic of questions, I also like to make sure that I work on my cheat questions. So I'll give an example again for product management because I'm biased to that role. So in product, I've done lots of product interviews, and there's a common question that you're always asked, and that is, what is your favorite product and how would you improve it, right? It's going to be very silly of me not to always have an answer to that question, right? So every role might have that, they're very general questions like, tell me about yourself, tell me about a time you failed. Like they're very cheat questions. There are lots of cheat questions that I think candidates should just prepare in advance and make sure that it is stellar. So even if you don't maybe do so well on other questions, at least those cheat questions, you know that you've excelled and you've been able to answer them very well. My other point is, I would say, do your research and don't just talk about any and every trend you see, but really ensure that it aligns with the role that you're interested in, and you can tie it back to the role. So if I'm interviewing for a product role, product management role, I have to ensure that if I'm talking about maybe something I've seen from this company, an interesting, thing that's happened, I want to ensure that it's in line with maybe a product, and I'm talking about it from a perspective that, okay, yeah, this is, as a product manager, I've been able to evaluate, this happening. This is kind of where I see this going. Like I'm tying it back to my role. I'm not just saying it to show that I've done the research about this company. I know all your, stats and, revenue numbers and everything. All of that is good, but people still want to tie it back to the role, right? So if I'm going to mention something about the company, I'll tie it back to a product specifically because that's the role I'm applying for. If maybe you're applying for an engineering role or some other role, ensure that it ties back to the role that you're interested in. And then second to last thing I would say is do mock interviews. I cannot overemphasize this enough. Do mock interviews, either with friends, colleagues, with people maybe even higher up than you, and also do solo interviews. I think more often than not, we know when we've answered a question well and when we've just like finessed and just finesse the question really, right? So what I try to do is I like to like just use my phone and go on memo and just record myself answering the question and play it back to myself. I actually give myself an honest rating. Like if I was the one listening to myself, would I be satisfied with this response? So I like to do solo mock interviews, and I also like to do peer mock interviews. And the reason for that is because I've seen that in general, peer mentorship is amazing. I think many people, they try to find like people higher up than them, which is great, but truly your friends, your peers can know a lot as well, right? Especially with product interviews. Like I will have a friend answer some product question from this perspective. Like let's say we're doing analytical questions. How would you estimate the number of like people in an airport, for example, like everyone's thought process is so different. So when you do mock interviews, you get to see how people think about questions, and you also get feedback, right? And you're able to improve. And then lastly, I would say have thoughtful questions. When you get to the end of the interview and they ask you, oh, do you have any questions? Never say no. Like, please ask a question, and not just any question, ask thoughtful questions, you know, like Dr. Timmy was saying, do your research about the person, have at least one insightful question, like, oh, I see that you recently worked on this. Can you tell me more about what that project entailed, right? Or what challenges did you face? Where do you see this going? Like, ask questions that show that you've thought about something deeply and you're asking for, to satiate your curiosity. So yeah, those are my points. And those are things that personally I have done that have helped me my interviews.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, Ledo. So I'm looking at the time.
Yes.
Chibos, I want us to phrase your question differently. Do you mind if we put you on the spot?
Well, I don't mind, but I actually had something that I really wanted to say that I think would be beneficial for everyone.
Okay, so we are going to do this.
Okay.
You tell us about yourself. Let's do an interview, a mock interview. Tell me about yourself, and then you
wow, that that is so not fair.
That's one question they always ask.
Oh boy.
Through your resume. You know, should we do it? Who is in support? Okay. Who's in support of that?
Okay. This is okay. Let me see. Okay. Well, I guess I can try. I mean, it won't be perfect, obviously, because I wasn't in that frame of mind, but still, I think I'll just I'll give it a shot. Okay, so first of all, my name is Chibueze, and it's a pleasure to be here with you. I really appreciate the opportunity that you've given me to speak with you today. I'm really excited about learning more about this role and letting you know how I'll be a good fit for the opportunity. My background is mostly in banking, but over the last 4 or 5 years, I've really spent my time building my skills in B2B product marketing. I've had the opportunity to launch products across different verticals, namely payments, travel, and insurtech. And in that time, I've had the opportunity to build my skills in go-to-market strategy, in research, in analytics, and as well as go-to-market strategy. I think I said that before. So, however, I think that when you look at my experience and the requirements of this role, you see that there's a really good alignment there, specifically because of my experience, taking a travel app to market. I think that resonates deeply with what the company is trying to achieve at this stage of their growth. And I can tell that, it's very important to drive new customer acquisition as well as revenue. And based on my experience, I think that is the value that I'm able to add and bring to the company. Away from my work, when I'm not working, I actually spend most of my time mentoring young product marketing managers. I'm currently the London chapter lead for the Product Marketing Alliance, where I organize events that help people of color to really integrate into their roles as product marketing manager. I also help them with resources that can help them, elevate their careers. I'm a father, and on the weekends I like to run, and I also love to hike. So thank you. How was that?
Yes. Okay. I see the acronym. Yeah, that was great. That was great.
You guys caught me off guard.
If this is your response on the spot, I wonder how it would sound like when it's like.
I know, right?
Oh no!
I
If it's
know,
rehearsed, man, like it's surgical. Like I'll just be.
Them back to back. I love it.
So that was good.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Yeah, that was very solid. And I love that you brought the human perspective.
The human
Oh yeah,
soul, yes.
absolutely, absolutely.
Awesome. So you can add what you wanted to add.
Oh yeah. So I think that Temi and Ledo have really done a good job in bringing in the star perspective with the extra R as well. But I think that, personally, I've used star for the last 10 plus years, right? But there's a new framework that I think that can really elevate how you respond in interviews. And it's called the PSAR method. P stands for process, S stands for situation, A is for action, and R is for results. Now, the reason why I think that the STAR method is kind of like doesn't do justice to providing response is that I think, first of all, it takes too long to set up your situation and task. On average, people take almost 50% of that time that they don't really go into details about the action and the results. And I think that it kind of neglects the process that you take to actually provide that result. And I think that's really where the PSAR method really stands out. So what the process is supposed to highlight is really kind of walking you through the process. You now get an opportunity to show the hiring manager your systems level thinking, seeing that you have taken the most important things into consideration, and this is your process for, getting to the point of delivering whatever solution it is. Situation obviously now takes into consideration the task, the challenge, what the project was, or what the overall goal is. And you can really do this in one very short and concise statement. I think where you now can really go into details and where you can now bring in that process into play is the action side of things. Now, this is where you now dive into details about, what exactly that you did, by following that process that you had laid out earlier. And at the end of the day, your results. Therefore, again, numbers are very crucial when it comes to results, showing what the impact is and how that drove maybe efficiency or drove new revenue or, brought in more customers, whatever the goal is, how you achieve that. Personally, I think the PSAR method is it really brings to life, your experience and how you think about every task that you're given, your process to what the situation was, what action that you took, and by the end of it, the results. So, I mean, I think you guys should really give it a try. STAR method is good, definitely good. I've been using it myself, but I think the PSAR method also kind of like it's a new and it's becoming really really popular, especially in the product marketing space.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that new perspective, work. I also love that, we've been able to graduate. Tim talked about the STAR, and then we had an extra R from Ledo, and then Chibueze introduced his too. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Next, I would like us to, before we go into Q&A, I would like us to just do a quick poll. And this is where PSAR, yeah. I'm just going to launch it. Please, if you could take some time to just share your experience with us, tell us how we are doing so far. For some of you that have joined previous weeks, how has this session helped you? So please, let's just take a few minutes. Please genuinely write something, or if you prefer to use the link in the chat, please also use that. We'll drop it, the feedback link. Yeah, we constantly want to keep doing better. So I'm just going to wait. And as we continue to discuss, I want us to finally talk about like personal branding, how we can position ourselves online to for the job, for even like other global opportunities, to be honest. And I would also like to add, beyond borders, I was telling my team that, see, if it's one person that shows up, we are going to commit to that one person and we're going to see transformation. I was listening to a speech by Apostle Joshua Selman. For those that follow him, he gave a speech at Harvard, and he talked about the power of one. And it just really broke a lot of barriers for me, because sometimes we tend to want to do things where there are a lot of people. But he's like, if you remove one from 1 million or from 1 billion, it ceases to be 1 million, right? So that one really adds up, one person at a time, one person at a time, one person at a time. And eventually you see the multiplier effects in their lives, in their families and beyond, right? And that's what we are really, really committed to. Yes, we are doing these sessions, but at some point we also will launch a platform where we connect companies, where companies will be able to hire directly from our platform, right? So it's one person at a time to get the job, one person at a time to get that opportunity that they desire, that will literally, break certain barriers. We've had people in our communities that we've even supported that are like, hey, Liza, I was the first person in my entire, because previously some segment of what we used to do was to help people to study abroad. We did a lot of that last year. But I'm the first person in my whole family, grandfather, grandmother, mother, auntie, to actually go to college. And now you supported us or supported me to actually get a full funding to do an MBA degree. Do you know what that means? It means that your village people did not succeed. Oh my goodness. But anyways, it just really gives that person a whole different perspective about life, that, oh my goodness, I can actually do this. And I was the first in my family to do this. So for some of us, it's like you're either the first, you're the second, we're not even counting, but you are here today and we are committed to you, to ensuring that you actually succeed. And that's why we'll definitely encourage you to be part of the Beyond Borders community. Ledo talked about peer-to-peer mentorship and how it's very valuable. We also plan to introduce that at some point. So please ensure that you join, connect with us on social media, and also join our newsletter. One of our team members will drop the newsletter link in a bit. So yeah, just wanted to share that part. And if you haven't done the poll, please do it now, or just click on the link, the feedback link. So I'm just going to end that. So let's talk about personal branding. Let's talk about leveraging LinkedIn, and the spotlight is going to be on Ledo. Ledo, how do you say your full name? Do you mind?
Yeah, sure, I don't mind. My full name is Leidon Lubari.
Okay, where are you? You're not Nigerian, are you?
I am.
You are. I'm always confused. I'm like, Nigerian or?
I know, I get that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nigerian.
Oh, nice. What part?
I'm from River State.
Rivers. Got it. Awesome. All right.
Yeah, PH babe.
Girl.
I'm a PH boy, so
Um, Okay, yeah. So yeah, okay. The thing with I'll talk about LinkedIn from like with my own story, right? So like I mentioned, I started school in 2017. I created my LinkedIn actually for the first time May 2018. I'll never forget. And at the time I created LinkedIn, all I had heard about LinkedIn was, oh, it's just this career, app where it focused on just for professionals. I didn't really know about like as a place to look for jobs or anything. I just thought it was very, very experienced professionals in their different industries, just talking, connecting with each other, right? So I didn't even think it was a place for a student or a freshman like myself. And at the time I, started using LinkedIn a bit more, just being on the app a bit more, I realized that there were not that many students, or very, very few students on that platform. And even if students were there, they were very quiet. Like they were just, I just have a profile and then I'll just leave it and go and use my other platforms and welcoming of me as a student. And I was very, very like bothered by that. And again, like I mentioned, I had connected with a friend who was also in that space where she was very big on like trying to break that barrier between students and LinkedIn. And it was very encouraging for me, right? So when I joined LinkedIn, I didn't join LinkedIn to find an internship. I didn't join LinkedIn to find a job. I joined LinkedIn because I just felt like I wanted to bring a different perspective to that platform. And that's a student perspective. I didn't see many students talking about their journey. For me, I didn't see maybe only one other student I knew that was talking about her journey as an international student, right? But even at that, she was in a different career path. So for me, I really wanted to just use LinkedIn to share my story. That was genuinely my only like goal, I guess, right? So when I say story, I mean just like, oh, like my day-to-day struggles of just being an international student. Oh, I got rejected today. Oh, like I just found the scholarship that I really think I'm qualified for, but then I'll just see that requirement that says, oh, you have to be a US citizen or permanent resident, right? Like, just like, I was trying to bring like a real perspective to what it meant to be an international student on a professional platform. Like, obviously you can do these things like on Instagram or other platforms, but I really wanted to do that on LinkedIn. And that was when my journey began. I really cringe at the word personal branding because I think it's been like overhyped in the last couple of years. And the reason why I say that is because I've seen so many people who lack depth and parade themselves as a personal branding expert, or, you know, I am it's always like something enthusiast or something, you know, expert. And this is not to say you can talk about the things you're interested in, but there's a difference between saying you're an aspiring something or than saying you're like, you know, an expert in a certain field, right? For me, I tell people, I try to tell people, and this is something I try to do myself, is I use LinkedIn to share my progress and share my work, not to act like I'm a PM expert. Like even when people come to me and like ask me for tips, I'm like, I really don't know that, but I can tell you what I have done, but I can't pretend. I'm not going to pretend like I know what it means to be a VP of product. I'm not there yet, and I don't have that experience, but I can tell you everything I've done up until this point, right? So I think if people take that mindset of like, oh, like having a personal brand and focus more on like using LinkedIn to share your progress, share your work, don't build in silence, right? Like I've seen so many of my peers who, one guy in particular, her name is Emmanuel Achiampong. And what this guy would do is he would take lots of courses with Coursera. Like this guy is a Coursera wizard. He's taken over like maybe 300 courses, and he's in the software engineering AI ML space. And what he would do is like every time he takes a course, he will build something and share and be like, oh, this is what I did today. This is, you know, this side project I just did, and ask for feedback. Like he was not even trying to be like some software guru, and he was just learning and sharing his progress with people, right? To the point that I think he applied for a specific visa type in the US recently, and he got that. And he was giving a testimonial about it, saying that because of all posts he had been making on LinkedIn, just sharing his work, there was no brainer about if this guy had the experience. Like it was so clear, it was on his LinkedIn, people could testify to it, right? So perspective is everything again. Like I'm not against having a personal brand, but don't let that be the focus for why you use LinkedIn. Figure out, okay, what am I interested in? Is it tech? Is it marketing? Is it, you know, healthcare? And start asking yourself, okay, what can I do to share where I'm at? Whether it's that I'm a first-year student just navigating my journey, or maybe I have some degrees under my belt and I'm trying to pivot into something, right? Like let your focus be on wanting to share your work, share your progress. And by that, you already start to craft a niche for yourself. So without even saying, like giving myself like, oh, PM as my personal brand, most of the questions I get, and when people reach out to me, it's, oh, Lado is like, she's into PM, please can you help me with that? But that was not what that was not my, that was like my LinkedIn headline, like, oh, I am a PM personal branding, you know, person, or anything. It was just that I love product management. I would share my interview experiences. You know, I talked about like when I got my job, my journey getting both my internships and my full-time role. Like I was very vocal about my experience. And naturally people already knew that, oh, okay, if it's anything about PM or being, you know, being a student, international student, getting scholarships, Ledo is your person, right? So that's one thing I would say. And then second thing I'll just talk about with LinkedIn is genuinely connect with people. Many times, I even hate saying the word like, what is your network, or your network is your net worth. And for me, it just sounds very transactional, right? I'm very big on like genuine relationships. And I'm not saying that everyone on LinkedIn is going to be your best friend, no, or like your close friend, but genuinely get to know people for who they are, not what they can do for you. I've had too many people who, you know, if I was connecting with them because of what they could do for me, I don't think I'll be that close to them today. I was talking to someone earlier. I was saying that when I got my before I graduated, I was working at Intuit, and my recruiter there was actually the person that led me to my role at Oracle. And it was just because of keeping in touch. When I was first introduced to her, I didn't actually get the offer that I wanted, right? Like that was 2019, I think. But I didn't lose contact. I was still in contact with her, because whether or not I get to work at Intuit or not, I still wanted to just get to know her and be a part of her journey, just as she was a part of mine, right? So for me, I've never liked the, oh, just network with people, send connection requests. Even when you want to send connection requests, personalize it if you can. Get to know about the person's background. Like when people reach out to me sometimes, they're like, oh, I see that you worked at Microsoft. And I'm like, well, clearly you didn't take your time to read my profile, because I don't work at Microsoft, right? They just jump and they see the first like company thing and just think, oh, that's where you work. Like get to know the person. I'm not saying you know everything about the person, but craft a story, tell them why you want to connect, tell them what you're interested in, right? So yeah, that's really what I would say about LinkedIn. Don't be obsessed with personal branding, just be obsessed with learning, sharing your journey, sharing your progress, and people were already having, like, you would already create a niche for yourself. And then, like, secondly, just be genuinely interested in connecting with people. And yeah, I think that's how I would summarize the way I've been able to use LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that though.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, LinkedIn for me, I think one of my biggest issues is being consistent. Oh my goodness. All right. So we're about to switch to Q&A for a bit, but if you can, put on your camera. Let's see your beautiful faces. Come on. Come on. All right. Let's see who's going to be first. Okay, Becca. Hi. Let's see your faces. Okay. More faces, more faces. More faces. All right. Let's do this. Ife, Maggie, Emmanuel A. I see someone on iPhone. I don't know who this is. Na, Aisha, Cindy. Who can show their faces? Jane, Amarachi. Come on, you guys. All right. Okay, let's go into Q&A. If you can show your faces, that would be great. We'd love to see you. Ask your questions. In America, they say closed mouths don't get fed. In Nigeria, you know, Nigerians are always extra. I don't know why. They'll say a closed mouth is a closed destiny. And I'm like, what was that? Why so extreme? But I mean, that's what we do. All right. So I see a hand raised from Rebecca. Hello. Let's go.
Hi everyone, good evening. Oh, it's evening in Nigeria.
You were
So
showing your face, so you might as well just continue. Okay.
yeah, hi, my name is Rebecca. Thanks to all the speakers today, Temitope, Ladu, Chibueze, and my sister, who is Liza. Yeah, thank you guys so much. I really needed this session because it's something that I have been struggling with recently. So I'm actually in the admin space and I'm trying to transition into the tech space. And I see that it's been quote unquote difficult for those that are in the admin space to transition into the tech space. And why one of the reasons I want to transition into the tech space because I have a career or yeah, I would like call it a career goal. Let's just leave it at that career goal to get a degree to get an MBA degree. And I see that anytime I try to want to either apply for MBA or transition, I always get the, what you're doing, you're just admin. We can't really help you unless you transition. So what would you advise that I do, or how do you advise that I position myself so that I can either get into an MBA space? Chubers, I think you mentioned that you're doing your MBA right now in Oxford. So how do I position myself and for both MBA and for both for career switch? Thank you.
Okay. Actually, I finished in 2022, so it's been 2 years now. Like thinking about it, but Rebecca, so let's use your situation as a case study so that we can actually provide you practical, tailored advice. What company are you working for? And in what industry?
Okay, industry is legal company, Banwani Gudalu. Thank you.
Okay. So first of all, I know many lawyers who have become MBAs, right? But they were practicing lawyers. So I guess that's a different case study. But I think for your own case study, to be very honest, like an admin is not
Sorry,
the
let me just
ideal.
put it out there that I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah, I figured that. I figured that out. Yeah, yeah.
Can you share I think that will put more context.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'm actually on the go, so
No,
I
it's
can't show
fine.
my face right now,
No.
but I can only listen
Okay, it's
and
fine.
give
It's
feedback.
fine.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I would first of all say that you need to get you need to transition from that admin role first of all. I think that is first of all the first obstacle you have to overcome. What you can transition to, you really need to think about it, and you need to think about it from the perspective of your interest. I'll be very honest, I don't think you should be thinking about an MBA now, because what the MBA is for is to amplify what you already have or what you've already built, right? And from what you're telling me now, being an admin officer, that is not the profile of the typical MBA. So I'll be surprised if any school would give you admission. They're looking for people who have spent 4 or 5 years, hopefully in a managerial position across different industries. They're looking for people like that who want to further, their careers and maybe improve their earning potential, improve their network. So I'll be honest, I don't think that is a good role, a good goal to be having now, simply because of what the MBA is designed for. So what I would say is, first of all, practically, if you're trying to get into tech, I would say find a company that you can do an internship for in Lagos or wherever you are, right? Determine what role you want to do, get an internship, do it, see whether you like it before you can now start pushing for a permanent role. Because to be honest, tech might seem very fancy, but not everybody is supposed to be in tech, right? And you really have to like this thing to want to get into it. So I would say start with an internship or volunteer at a tech company, whatever you can do, whereby you don't have to affect your source of living and you're getting relevant experience. When you've done that and you see that you like it, whatever the role is, I mean, obviously this is more conversation has to be had about this. Then you can spend some time in that role and try and grow in that role. For the MBA side of things, I would say when you should be thinking about an MBA is, let's say, when you're trying to 4 times or 5 times your earning potential, right? Or you want to transition into another industry in a different country, or you're trying to build your network and really get into this very exclusive group of high flyers, right? Because you see yourself maybe becoming a CEO in the future or whatever your long-term goal is. I think that is when the MBA would be more beneficial to you versus just having it as a goal. It has to play a part in your career journey. So, and it has to fit into what type of career that you want to have. Having the MBA on itself, by itself, I don't think is a goal, because it's just something that you need in your arsenal to get to where you're going. So I think that would be my response to that.
Thank you so much, Chiberze.
Awesome. Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Please feel free to unmute or drop it in the chat if you're shy. There's no shyness here. Yes, no, maybe. Questions.
Oh, please, I have a question.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Jane. You
I'm
can
sorry.
introduce yourself and then ask your question.
Okay. Sorry, I would have actually turned off my video, but I have a kid that is actually running around and disturbing. I wanted to ask, he was trying to make a suggestion in relation to lawyers, people that are actually lawyers that had to go through the MBA route. I think he got, I think he actually made a swerve when he identified the fact that she is taking up an admin role. But I would actually love it if he can emphasize on the lawyers, or particularly professionals that actually have that want to make a U-turn, or that want to just diversify in terms of tech. Because I'm in that kind of situation. While I was in Nigeria, though, I practiced for about 9-10 years or thereabouts, and I was a full-time lawyer in litigation. But when I relocated to the Caribbean, I had to look at tech. And so I'm struggling between identifying the particular role that would actually, that I'll be fit for, especially as it concerns remote jobs. So I don't know if you could actually highlight some key features or some things that people could do. I've gotten some scholarships and I'm still contemplating, should I go for them or not, while maybe trying my hands on tech. Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, with regards to lawyers, again, even as a lawyer and you want to do an MBA, there has to be a goal in mind. Maybe you want to transition to private equity, or you want to transition to investment banking. Those type of careers, they love people with a legal background, because if you're going to be making investments, you need to be able to read the fine prints, right? Again, it all ties to where you're going to. Trust me, like what whatever role that you do, there's still some relevance in getting an MBA, right? But again, like it really has to tie to what you want to do with it in the long run, because that is the story that you will tell in your application, that they'll see you as a viable candidate. But you definitely have to have some years of experience, on average, at least 5 years of experience. With regards to you, I would say you need to try out things before you know what you like. You would not know what you like by researching it. You need to get your hands dirty. So find a company, volunteer for them, do product management, do product marketing, do data analysis, do customer success. There are so many roles in tech. Like there's so many roles, and not everybody has to code in tech. There's so many non-code tech roles that you can go for. But you need to do your research and you need to find out, look, what skills are transferable. I think that is even a very practical way to look at it, is what skills do I have that would benefit a tech company? I think that is the best way that you can start to see, adjacent roles in tech that you can go. As a lawyer, for example, as a lawyer, there are definitely transferable skills in product marketing. This is an example. I'm not advising you to go to product marketing, and I'll tell you why. As a lawyer, you do a lot of research, right? When you're preparing for a case, that is something that is fundamental to every product marketing manager. Product marketing managers do a lot of research that supports people like Ledo to build the products. They provide the insights that she needs to determine, okay, what feature do we build? Okay, which feature should we prioritize? Based on what the customer wants, based on what the market is saying, based on what our competitors are doing. Then I will do all that research, and together with Ledo as a product manager, we'll now decide, okay, this is what we should build based on all this data, based on all this information that I've gathered. So this is just an example. As a lawyer, you definitely do a lot of research. So there are definitely transferable skills there. But again, you need practical experience. You need to actually do it. So find some company. It doesn't have to be abroad. You can find a company in Lagos that's looking for talent, and, help them out, and then sort yourself out in the process.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. We have one hand raised and a question for Temi in the chat. So let's take the question in the chat first. It says, I'm a graduate of zoology in Nigeria, but I'm looking at epidemiology in public health as my master's. Can you make that kind of transition, or should I choose something more similar to my course?
The good thing is public health is for everyone. So yes, you can make the transition from zoology to epidemiology. What I'm going to ask, and again, it speaks to what Chibueze, has given in his recommendation, is it's a degree to it's a tool. So any degree you're trying to get, think of it as a tool or a vehicle to get you somewhere. So you have to be very clear what it is you want to do with an epidemiology degree. That is important. And it's important you outline what you need to do, because all of these it's a huge investment. Scholarships are not guaranteed. You might be great, but there are other great people out there. So you can't bank on something like a scholarship, because it's not promised. I mean, except if you have the money. But even if you have the money, we are talking about investments here. And so you getting the degree is not the investment. You're investing in a goal, in a vision. So you want to be very clear, okay, what is it? Why do I even want to transition to epidemiology? And what do I want to achieve with a degree in epidemiology? But if you're talking about, is it possible? Of course it's possible. And I mean, I can give you like the practical things you want to do is, okay, understand, do you know what epidemiologists do? What it is that they do? That's the first thing I will start. If you're not even sure exactly how you might use it, but you feel like you want to switch, the first thing you want to go read up is, what do epidemiologists do? Where do they work? Right? And you'll find epidemiologists in different spaces. So the question is, are you thinking Nigeria, or are you thinking, so I'm assuming this person is in Nigeria. I'm biased, I'm Nigerian, there are a lot of Nigerian names here, so I don't know. Are you thinking in Nigeria? Like, are you trying to use the degree in Nigeria? Do you want to use it outside of Nigeria? It doesn't matter. You can use it anywhere, right? But start within your immediate environment. Okay. If you're talking Nigeria, for instance, the Nigeria has the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research. They are one of our primary partners, right, for the projects we do in Nigeria. Nigeria has a CDC, right, Centers for Disease Control, right? So a lot of epidemiologists are working in this institutes, and like, you're thinking about, I call them scientific, it's like scientific practice, right? So they are not just sitting and doing research, they're actually using real-time data, real-world evidence, and translating that. So you want to see the spaces where epidemiologists exist. Is this the kind of work you're interested in? And then, of course, the next thing you want to know is like, what does a curriculum for epidemiology look like? Because when you start applying, making, putting together an application, you at least want to see the things you already know. Just because you're a zoologist doesn't mean you've not worked with data. I'm assuming you've worked with data, you've done research cycles, meaning that you've thought about a problem, you outline the way you're going to, you hypothesize, you outline the way you're going to go, analysis, like the analytical plan, and then you went about results, right? So there are similarities for the sciences. And so maybe again, this is the value of sciences. It's like there's this foundational, like scientific approach or inquiry process that you literally, if you've done your job, you can take your scientific inquiry process from whatever field and translate it into another. So that is, I would say for one, that is one thing you can start with is one, what is it that I've done with zoology that an epidemiology degree would be asking me of, right? And then two, you want to figure out what are epidemiologists doing and is that what I want? Where do they work? Is that what I want? I mean, I always throw in a three is to go and make a connection. Talk to one, be like, what is this about? Like, how often do you even actually use your epidemiology degree in your job? You'll be surprised that some people end up not using a bunch of things that they've learned, but at least they use a core of it. And it's usually with the core of things that people have learned that you can then determine, like, okay, is this degree worth it? Or is it just good enough to take a couple of courses on Coursera or something instead of investing in the full, like, I don't know. Liza, how much did we pay for masters? Like $120,000.
You want to say it in public?
I'm saying it, let people learn. No, this is what we're talking about. When you say the difference between Java and
Oh my
Microsoft,
goodness.
that was what
Yeah.
that made me laugh. But it's true. Like, it's the cost and the return on investment. Like, you have to weigh it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's possible, is what I'll tell you.
Absolutely. Thank you so, so much for sharing. So we're about to wrap up. Ade Pancake, can you be fast? I feel like
Yeah, I'll talk about it. Hi, everyone. My name is Adebanke. I'm currently a student at Yeshiva University in New York, and I'm pursuing my master's in digital marketing and media. So, over time, I've been applying for internship. I've been getting some potential offers, but there's always this clause about the visa sponsorship in the United States. So, do you advise at the point of applying to pick the option of will you now or in future require visa sponsorship? Because I noticed like two potential employers at the point when they know I'm on F1, they kind of like fidget and draw back on that.
Answer this question.
Questions like this, sometimes I like to pause the recording because it's a very tricky one. And I'm actually going to stop sharing right now and pause. Forgot that. Thank you so much for being part of the Beyond Borders community and for taking our time to invest in yourself today. Thank you to our wonderful speakers. Emojis, what do we say to our speakers? Please, 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 let's share the love, the hearts, the claps. Thank you so, so much. Thank you for, taking our time on Saturday to share insights and wisdom with us. We really appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. Someone asked for a group chat. Jane, this is like for the NYU community, but we're going to be sharing the Beyond Borders WhatsApp community very soon with you. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.